Busy? Okay, all right. So we are going to look at, this is what we looked in the last class, the distribution of gunas in the Prakriti. I'm not going to go through all of them. The gunas are part of the entire Prakriti, Shastras have three gunas, people have three gunas, the food we eat, the places we visit, the drinks we drink, all the actions we do, all these have these gunas in it. And we are part of this guna distribution. Somewhere or the other, we will we have some rajas guna, some tamas guna, or the sattva guna, and we have to get over these gunas. Nistrairgunyo bhavarjuna. Krishna tells to Arjuna, Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha, Nistrairgunyo bhavarjuna, Nirguno Nitya Sattvasto, Niryoga Kshema Atmavan, he says. So we have to transcend these gunas. We have to go beyond the sattva gunas. And in order to get to sattva guna, we have to first come to sattva guna. That's what he says, nitya sattvastaha. So we'll see how this distribution is. We saw this briefly last class. We are somewhere here. This is like a three-dimensional plot of the gunas. We said earlier in the last class that the gunas are competing with one another. One guna overtakes the other, and that's how the sum total of gunas is 100. If you take, we might have 50 sattva and 40 rajas. Sometime later, we might have 60 sattva and 30 rajas, like that. So ultimately the 100, they can only compete against each other, and they cannot be independent. That's in our benefit. That works for our benefit. So we are somewhere here, and then when we get to some spiritual practice, we move up here, and then we reduce our rajas and move towards higher and higher levels of sattva. Now here we looked at these various prohibited and prescribed actions for us: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Yes, we can achieve artha and kama in dharma, or go the adharmic way. Now, when we do in the dharmic way, if we do with a desire-free attitude, nishkama karma, then we are increasing our sattva. If we go in the dharmic way with desire motivated, desire for things in this country, in this world, or the desire for after death, that is swarga and all. So those are going to increase rajas. If I don't live in the dharmic way at all, and the desire takes over me, and more or less I will be in tamas. Now, this is how we looked at it, that there is a horizontal plane of operation. There's a vertical plane of operation with respect to gunas. In the horizontal plane, it's mostly rajas and tamas. In the vertical plane, it is rajas and sattva. So we want to move from the horizontal plane to the vertical plane to be able to spiritually improve ourselves. So we are somewhere here, then we go up here, and we move towards Nitya Sattvasta. This is how really what happens. It's not just I go from one point to the other. So let us say we are operating somewhere here. We have some sattva in us, we have some rajas, we have some tamas also. So here, each dot is one life. That's what we need to understand here, is that it is not that easy to move through the rajas. I will show you a calculation regarding that. So each dot is one life, and slowly, I have to build myself with higher and higher sattva, lower and lower rajas. And then when I come to here, I should change my way of living. Here I am living in dharma with a kamya, with the intention of desire, a desire motivated karma. Whereas if we are interested in spiritual growth, we should stop working or acting motivated by desire, and then we slowly make progress towards the sattva guna. Now this, I said here 100% sattva. When we come to closer to, this is the area of what is called nitya sattvastaha, always in the sattva state. And once we are there, and then when we transcend this, go beyond 100% sattva, that is realization, that is moksha. And in moksha, we said moksha is living in Atma. Atma does not have any guna. Sattva, rajas, tamas are only in the prakriti and not in the purusha. Therefore, when I transcend this sattva 100%, I become Shuddha Sattva. Now, what we have, even those who are having this good amount of Sattva, it is mixed with, say, Rajas and Tamas. It's called Malina Sattva. Malina Sattva is impurified Sattva. But whereas once you go beyond the 100% of Sattva, you are pure Sattva, and that is the state of the Atma. That is where our goal is. That's where we have to be. So, we have to keep in mind, we slowly move towards our goal. So where do we start? Uddared atmanatmanam natman avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanaha. So if I have to go from here to here, and I have to do it myself, nobody else can do it for me. It's like this. See, if I carry a load on my back, one of you can say, oh, I can help you and you can help me. Or if, like a father might have some debts and the son could clear the debts, that's possible. But if I'm hungry, I should eat to quench my hunger. If I'm sick, I have to take medication to be able to overcome the disease. And again, if I have the medication, if I'm looking at the medication, I'm not going to get well. I have to take it. Therefore, action is required on our part to move from rajas to tamas, rajas to sattva. So that action of taking medication to get cured applies here also. So I alone can help myself. That's what Krishna says in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Uddared atmanatmanam atmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Basically, what it means is a person has to raise himself by his own self. Nobody else will be able to help him in this spiritual path. And he says none should degrade himself, because everyone is capable, everyone is potentially divine. Everyone is potentially can get up to the 100% sattva. Therefore, I should not short sell myself. I should not limit myself to where I am today. I should be able to try to go beyond where I am today. In that case, the Lord will come to our help at that time. So none should degrade himself. For he can be considered a friend of himself or an enemy of himself. He says, Atmaiva Atmanaha Bandhuhu. Atma is the friend of himself, or in the case here, Atma refers to the Jivatma. Atmaiva Ripuhu Atmanaha. Atma is an enemy of himself. If I don't work towards my potential, I'm an enemy of myself. If I work towards my potential, I become a friend of myself. So we are drowned in samsara. And one must lift himself up. One must lift himself up to seat himself in the yoga. So he must not degrade himself. Being a friend of himself, he should not degrade. He should upgrade himself. That is what this to be seated in yoga is. So he is his own enemy. There is no outside enemy to hurt me here. We can take cover for anything, though there was an enemy. Now, in this case, there is no excuse for any one of us to not try to reach to our potential. Okay. So this same thing is said in Vivek Chudamani by Sri Shankaracharya very beautifully. Avidya kama karmadi pashabandham vimochitam kaha shakniyat vina atmanam kalpa koti shatairapi. He says, vina atmanam, apart from himself, kaha shakniyat, who is capable of vimochitam, to release himself. He has to work for himself. avidya kama karma di pashabandham. This bondage we have due to avidya, ignorance, is driven by karma, and it is being driven by karma. Kalpa koti, what is this driven by karma means? I do karma and I have to, I am thinking I'm the body and mind, and all the body and mind, the karma that I do with the body and mind, I impose on myself that I did those. And when I impose on myself that I did all these karma and with my body and mind, I have to reap the benefits of that are the phala of that. Therefore, I have to take another birth. In this life, I can only do so much. I cannot do more than what I have already asked to do by the prarabdha. So I will have to take another life. And here, Shankaracharya, he says, Kalpa koti shataihi api 100 crores of kalpas. That is 1 billion kalpas. 1 billion, one kalpa is 31 trillion years according to our Hindu calendar. One kalpa is 31 trillion years, and even after 1 billion years, whatever karma we have done will stay with us. It has to be experienced. This is how strong this prarabdha, this karma is. That karma phala that we do is with us forever and forever. And therefore, that's what I was showing, those different dots being each life. We don't know how many lives we have gone through. We may have gone through millions, we may have gone through billion. In each kalpa, in each time of Brahma, we are born again and again and again, and we go through this process. So, where do I begin? All right, this is serious stuff now. I have to help myself. Where do I begin? And Krishna says, I will help you. Tasmat Shastram Pramanante Karya Karya Vyavastito Jnatva Shastra Vidhanoktam Karma Kartum Iha Arhasi. He says, oh Arjuna, let Shastra, the scriptures be your guide. They be Pramana for you. Karya Akarya Vyavastito, to organize yourself such that you do the what is required to be done, the do's, and you don't do the don'ts, the prohibited karma and the prescribed karma for all of us. So karya karya vyavastito. Karya is prescribed karma. Akarya is the prohibited karma. Therefore, I don't know which is right for which I should do, which I should not do. Krishna says you have to go to Shastra. Shastra describes what you should do and what you should not do. Therefore, Jnatva Shastra Vidhanoktam, having known what the Shastra injects us to do, asks us to do, Karma Kartum Iha Arhasi, you become eligible, you become qualified to do the right karma. That's the only way. There is no other way. If we say I will do this or that, we will reap the benefits, and we will not. Will another dot in that picture. We will not move anywhere. Okay. So now this is where the big table here. There are 36 verses in the Bhagavad Gita which tells us what to do and what not to do, how to do, how not to do. This I have listed here, 6 items here: food, the worship we do, the tapas we do, austerity, the charity dana we do, the renunciation, that is tyaga, that we do, and knowledge, the jnana that we try to accumulate. This is one. And then the other way, karma, whatever karma we do, whatever the kartrutva, even as doers, we have the sattva, rajas, tamas inclinations, and our intellect, buddhi, it is again having sattva, rajas component, tamas components. Resoluteness is dhriti, and happiness, sukha, and object of worship, that is what we worship. Now, I'm not going to go into details of this. What is in bold on this is the verse number in the chapters. Now, I'll hit a couple of them. Let's start with food. Now, food we eat also can be divided into three categories. Food that is heart and mind friendly, heart and mind healthy, they are considered good foods, or the sattva food. What do you mean by heart and mind? See, all the food that we eat is divided. It becomes divided in the body. It becomes separated in the body to three components. The most subtle component of the food that we eat goes to the mind. That is what supports the intelligence. Then there is the less subtle than that, a little on the grosser side, that goes to fill up the muscles and bones, etc. The physical body it supports. And then there is the grossest part of it is put out of the body. So this food that we eat should be helpful to the mind, means it should be rasya snigdha stira hridyaha aharaha satvika priyaha, he says. The food must be it tasty, I mean juicy. It should be fresh food. I think that's the best way to say it. It should be fresh food, whereas the spicy foods are painful. They are painful to the body, physical body. They don't contribute much to the mind. What is much contributed to the mind are, rasya snigdha. Snigdha means fatty, like ghee, etc. And then hridyaha, heart friendly food. Stira means, see, the food that we eat should be lasting for a longer time. Really, the rice that we eat generally doesn't last that long. If you eat a meal, you should sustain for another 6 to 8 hours without taking another snack or something like that. So that is what stira means. So the stira food, something it should be it should keep you going for some time. That is sattva. And then what is tamas? Stale, dry, smelly foods and fermented foods. The other day we saw alcoholic beverages are considered tamas. That is the fermented foods. 1710 describes that. Stale food, eating yesterday's food, or dried fruits are an example of tamas. It doesn't have sattva, the juiciness in it. So that also comes under tamas, smelly foods like that. Now, let me take a couple of other items. I will not go through all of them, but this is there for us to manage. This is what the Shastra provides. So, charity. Now, if I give something to somebody and expecting something back from them, that is not a sattvic dana. Sattvic dana is we should give it to someone who is not in a position to give us back. That is how the Shastra describes it. That I should not expect them to give me back. And such a dana is called a sattvika dana. Then what is rajasic dana? Expecting a return favor and emotionally unwilling. See, I give it with a very, how can I say, half-hearted mind. I don't want to give, but circumstances make me to give, so I will give, and I will give with a expecting this person will some other time return the favor to me. And what is tamasic dana? Unrighteous person. Even when you have to give dana, you have to give to the right person. You cannot give the dana to a person who does not know how to make use of it. It could hurt him. If he hurts himself, then that dana will reflect on us. That is what is called a tamasic dana. And then giving something with contempt. Oh, I have to give to this guy, so that kind of attitude. So that is a tamasic charity. So see, we can decide where we want to be in order to enhance our sattva. Now let me go to the next verse. Next slide here. Karma. Okay, we doing prescribed karma in the attitude of detachment. That is sattvika karma. And doing karma, seeking the fruits of those action. I have even before I start, I want to get a car, therefore I'm going to work. See, that's a Rajasic karma. I'm already doing something with a payback in mind. And then karma executed with delusion, moha, without really knowing the full procedure of how to do it. I somehow start doing the work, and it is associated with some negative outcome. So that would be a tamasic karma. Similarly, a kartru doer is same thing, detached, without ego. He is firm in his path. He knows how to do it. He is inspired to do it. Such a doer, a kartru, is a sattvika kartru. And Rajasic kartru is one who is attached to, is attached to doing itself. He wants the fruits of actions, and like he doesn't mind resorting to violence in the execution of his karma, because he wants the results. He wants those fruit of action, and any means would be okay with him. So such a doer is a Rajasic doer, and a person who doesn't, who is really not interested to do. He is disinterested. He procrastinates. He has no past qualifiers to do the work correctly. Samskara means, say, all the work we do will give different outcomes for each one of us, because our preparedness for any karma is different in different persons' cases. So that is what I mean by here. No samskaras, etc. So like this, well, let me take one last one, and then move on to the object of worship. Worshipping gods is considered sattvic. Then worshipping demons. In today's world, there is no demons. But if we take Shankaracharya's definition, it works very well. Asushu ramante iti asuraha. That is what he says. Asu means prana. Prana is now translatable to sense organs. So I worship someone, a human being, who provides me sense pleasures, let us say. So such a person, such a kind of worship is called a Rajasic worship. And then there are those who worship spirits, etc. Those are the tamasic worships. One more I'll take this here, happiness. Happiness is, if you do any work, initially there is some effort on our part, and there is some pain associated with learning how to do. But we end up on the other side in happiness, like studying for an exam. I have to work hard now. Then at the end of the, once the exam is over, I pass, I get much more credits in terms of where I can go to work and things like that. So initially painful, but ends in bliss. Such a thing is called sattvika sukha, sattvika happiness. What is a rajasic happiness? It's, we want immediate results right now, instant gratification. Always that I want happiness now. See, these are the people who resort to alcohol and things like that. They somehow feel good in the initial stages, and then when it becomes a habit and it becomes they get very involved in it, then it could end in pain. It becomes they are uncontrollable for them to give away that. So such a happiness, initially it is happiness, but it ends in pain. That is rajasic. And the happiness, tamasic, is he doesn't even know that this is happiness or what. He somehow thinks it's happiness, but it may not be happiness at all. So such a happiness is tamasic happiness. Like this, these are the various means we have to manage our sattva, rajas, and tamas. And so these were 36 verses in the Bhagavad Gita, 17th chapter and 18th chapter. They guide us to understand where we are in the guna distribution. In the guna curve that we discussed, we can pinpoint where we are, and then what we should do to move up in that curve. what I have to do to reach this Nitya Sattva, the major Sattva I need to, what I have to do. So this is one aspect of the Shastra. This is not all the Shastra, but this is one aspect that is important to our current understanding of how to navigate to get to realization. Okay, so here is a small calculation. I said, okay, if this is the case, let us look at a how we can in one lifetime, how much of guna we can manage to improve. Now, let us say any one of us, we start this life with 40% sattva, 50% rajas, and 10% tamas. Now, this is based on my past births, my past lives. Let us say the last 10 lives are the ones that are more important, more recent, therefore they are important in terms of my current guna distribution. And each life, I have 100,000 data points. 100,000 data points is not much. It amounts to 3 per day. If I do 3 actions in a day that contributes to the guna, over a life of 100 years, if we take normally, we are looking at 100,000 data points per year, per life. And then based on 10 lives, it's 1 million data points. And that 1 million data points, and now in the current life also, we will take the 100,000 data points to do our calculation here. So in this current life, we perform 100,000 activities. And just for the sake of understanding it, I said, okay, we will do 80% sattvic karma, 15% rajasic karma, and 5% tamasic karma. It's just a assumption. With this assumption, just doing a weighted average method of calculation, it may not be 100% accurate, but it gives us a direction where we are heading. It gives an approximate data regarding at the end of this life, where can we expect to be. So doing that calculation, 1 million past lives plus this life 100,000, and putting the sattva, rajas, and tamas gunas in the equation, this is what we end up with. Beginning of this life, we had 40 sattva, 50 rajas, and 10 tamas. Now we performed here, assuming 80% sattva, 15 tamas, 15 rajas, and 5 tamas. What we end up with here, we only moved from 40% to 44% at the end of this life with respect to sattva guna. Now, rajas and tamas came down some 50 to 47. And the tamas came down from 10 to 9.5. So this is a very optimistic case. If I start this life with 40% sattva and my goal of 80% karmas in the sattvic domain is very, very, very difficult, if not impossible. See, the trying to manage guna is like swimming against the current in a river, and somebody is pulling our legs in the back. That is how difficult it is. If I come to this life with 40% sattva, I can at best 45 to 50% of the karmas can be sattva. Otherwise, it's just not that we are driven by what we come with. So that is very unlikely. But if one is very resolute, it's possible we can do something better than that. All right. So this is how the gunas improve when we do karmas in different situations in this life. Okay, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Now, imagine how, Shankaracharya in that verse, he said, 100 koti lives of Brahma, we may not be able to do. This is what happens. If we slip a little, then we go down quite a bit too. So, when did this all begin? We are trying to see, all right, I have whatever sattva, rajas, tamas today I have is what I have. When did this begin? So the 13th chapter helps us understand this. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Upavati Vikaramscha Gunamschaiva Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. So Prakriti and Purusha, these are Anadi. Anadi means beginningless. There is no record of anyone trying to say that the universe came into existence from at such and such a time. We know Purusha is Anadi. Purusha is birthless means Purusha is Anadi. With that, the Prakriti also comes out of the Purusha, and the Prakriti is there for the betterment of the Jivas, and therefore that is also Anadi. So know that Prakriti and Purusha are both beginningless. Know it that the modification in proclivities are part of nature. Vikaramsya gunamsya. Vikara are modifications. Modifications means today I'm a man, next life I could be a woman, or next life I could be a animal, or whatever may be the modifications based on my karmas. There will be some modifications, and along with that, the gunas that I carry this baggage with me, they are all Prakriti Sambhavan. They are all part of nature. They are born in nature. Because consciousness is occur through karma. It doesn't do anything other than just sit and witness. So every guna or any attribute you can give to it belongs to the inner nature other than this sattva, other than the Satchit Ananda. So nature and the sentient being know that to be beginningless. Ishvara being always there, Ishvara being Ishvara, he is always there. His two dimensions, Prakriti and Purusha, are also eternal. Now, here is an important thing to understand, is that I said that I don't know what my next life would be. The modification would be, we don't know. But Ishvara being Ishvara always means, Ishvara doesn't change. Ishvara is Atma, the Brahma or the Atma, in with a Upadi. So the Ishvara does not change. Only the Jivatma changes. So his two dimensions, Prakriti and Purusha, are also eternal. With these two dimensions, Ishvara is the source of creation, sustenance, and dissolution. So why we want to go to moksha is we also become part of that Ishvara. When we get to the Paramatma state, we also become with the Upadhi or the adjunct of the universe, we become Ishvara also. And so Ishvara being Ishvara, that is the what should be our motivation to seek realization. So Ishvara is the source of this creation, sustenance, and dissolution. These two being beginningless, transmigration is also beginningless. That's what this Vikaramsha Gunamseva with the Prakriti Sambhavan. So that dictates that we are modifying every time, and we are coming back in a certain form each life. So visiting this here, what is my dispositions? How can I, which way should I turn? Here is a little guide. Dharmic living, desire-free, that takes me towards moksha. Dharmic living, desire-motivated, that takes me towards samsara, continues to keep me in samsara. Adharmic living also keeps me in samsara, but inferior samsara. It's not a superior samsara. This desire-motivated kama karma in the dharmic domain, it keeps me in the superior samsara. Samsara is samsara in our in Kannada. There is a proverb that says, whether you poke your eyes with a steel needle or a gold needle, both of them hurt. So like this, whether I'm in a superior samsara or inferior samsara, in one way or the other, it hurts us. So the objective of Bhagavad Gita is to describe moksha. It is not here to describe the human life and the animal life or anything, but here and there, as the context demands, there is some description of the samsara and why. Because Lord wants us to be affected by this samsara, to develop dispassion. We understand how hurtful this samsara is, and he helps us generate dispassion and create our interest towards moksha. So that's the only reason why he describes the other forums, but mostly most of the instructions in the Bhagavad Gita are geared towards how to attain moksha. A couple of verses to understand here. Karya karana kartrutve hetuhu prakriruchyate purushaha sukha dukkhanam bhoktrutve heturuchyate. Here, this nature is being described here in little more detail. Now, the nature is the source of creation of beings and instruments. Beings means people like every one of us, and instruments means our tools, the sense organs, the sense object. We have the sense organs, the mind, the intellect, etc., etc., etc. They are all coming from the nature. I said earlier with respect to food that a good part of the most subtle part of the food goes towards the development of the brain. Then the less subtle part goes towards the physical body, etc. So the food is part of the nature. So as an example, I'm stating that the beings is the source of the seat of the nature is the source of creation of beings and their instruments like mind and sense organs, etc. And the beings is the source of the seat of pleasure and pain experience. Who? The Purusha. Purusha sukha dukkhanam bhoktrutve heturuchyate. Now, if I experience pain or pleasure, who does it? Who experiences it? Not the physical body. The physical body has no ability to experience the pain or pleasure, but it is the conscious part of the body, that is the jivatma. That is what is being now, we call here the being. So the jivatma that experiences the pain or pleasure, not the body itself. And jivatma is none other than the atma, who is misunderstood in our body. So the karya is the body, and the karanas are the instruments in the body. We have 13 instruments, 10 organs, the motor organs and the sense organs, mind, intellect, and ego. This ego we'll talk a little later. What is this ego is really when we have a body identification, thinking myself is the body is the ego. That shows up in all our activities, because we always refer back to this body again and again and again, and therefore ego becomes a part of us. That is what that becomes one of the tools, and that is how we got here 13 tools. And the experience of sorrow and happiness is included in the instruments. Instrument means mind and intellect. That is what experiences sorrow and happiness. That is the one that is enlivened by the Atma. Now, Prakriti is the source of creation of these, Karya and Karana, both. So in creating Karya and Karana, the body and instruments, Prakriti is the source of samsara. So because it is the body and the mind that the Prakriti creates, and because I identify with the body and mind and not with the Atma, so the Prakriti becomes the source of samsara. The body and mind is the source of samsara, but the body and mind is coming from the Prakriti, and to that extent, Karya Karana Kartritve Hetuhu Prakriti Ruchyate. So Karya and Karana is the source of them is the Prakriti. The Purusha, he is different from Prakriti, but in association with Prakriti, the Purusha, the Atma is a non-experiencer, non-doer. Atma just sits in the body, but the Atma has the ability to communicate with certain parts of the Prakriti, that is the mind, the intellect, etc., with the subtler parts of the Prakriti. the subtler parts of the Prakriti interact with the Atma. And that is what causes the experience of pleasure and pain. So, the pleasure and pain that I experience in my mind is experienced through the uh, chit of the Atma, Sat Chit Ananda. The chit, that consciousness is what experiences it. Therefore, the Purusha, though is different from Prakriti, he is a source, a source of samsara. This Purusha becomes, because he is associated with the Prakriti in certain instances, therefore he becomes a source of samsara. Now, once he becomes a part of samsara, the Prakriti is also being a part of samsara. Now, this Purusha, what does he do? He experiences the Prakriti. He experiences the good and the bad in the things around us, the plants, the trees, the food, any part of Prakriti, the Purusha experiences it. And having experienced it, he experiences, he has to pay the price of the fruit of action, and then he takes another birth. That is the essence of this verse. Purusha prakritisto hi bhunte prakriti jan gunan karanam gunasangosya sadasadyoni janmasu. So Purusha prakriti staha, he is established in the, seated in the nature. Bhunte, that is he enjoys. Prakriti jan gunan, the gunas that are originated in Prakriti. We saw how water, food, everything has certain gunas associated with it, and therefore they are Prakriti jan. They are born of, the gunas are born of Prakriti, and therefore Prakriti is coming into our interaction. Karanam gunasangosya, this Gunasanga, association with the guna, becomes the karana or the source of sat asat yoni jadmaso, birth in higher or lower bodies. Higher bodies are the celestial bodies, and the lower bodies are the animal bodies. Therefore, this Purusha, the Purusha that is in all of us, he enjoys the gunas that are born of Prakriti, and as he enjoys the gunas of Prakriti, enjoys means interacts with the Prakriti, there is a certain fruit of action associated with that. That is the guna sangha he does, and therefore he comes back in different modifications of bodies, sat and asat bodies, that is in superior or inferior bodies. So Purusha, as he is resident in Prakriti, is mistaking himself to be Prakriti body. That's the biggest problem. That's the error that he is committing. He is committing that though he is Purusha, he associates with the body. I am the body. I eat this. I did this because the body did something. He says, I did this work, etc. So that identification, he mistakes himself for the body. Therefore, body is Prakriti, and therefore is identifying with the products of Prakriti. Happiness, sorrow, ignorance, all these happens in interacting with the Prakriti, and the Purusha being seated in the Prakriti, in the body, he becomes identified with those happiness, sorrow, and ignorance. So identification with these products of Prakriti or the Guna is the source of birth in different bodies, some better bodies, some inferior bodies. So this transmigration, samsara, can be traced to the ignorance in the Prakriti, that is the body, the mind, those are the ignorant aspects of me, and so ignorance in the Prakriti, and the desire in the gunas of the Prakriti, because gunas, Prakriti has gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, and I want to enjoy those gunas, particularly the sattva and the rajas, I want to enjoy, because the gunas, it gives me some tasty food, all those are some good sight to watch or a good music to hear. These are all gunas, and I show an interest in these gunas, and therefore desiring the gunas of the Prakriti. Now, how to overcome this samsara. The samsara is now traced to Prakriti and the gunas born of Prakriti. How to transcend this Prakriti? How can I develop the dispassion towards Prakriti? How can I renounce Prakriti? That is the subject matter of the Bhagavad Gita. So until now, we have laid the foundation for where we are and why we have confused ourselves to the body and not the Atma that we are. And from now on, how do we go from here to transcend this Prakriti? That Bhagavad Gita teaches us. So as we as we do karmas of different kinds, as we enjoy the karma phala of them, we are faced with three possible choices of bodies in the future. Anishtam ishtam mishram cha trividam karmana phalam bhavatyattyaginam pretya natu sannyasinam kvachit. The 18th chapter. So there are three kinds of our karma phalas: agreeable karma phalas, disagreeable karma phalas, and mixed karma phalas. Some agreeable in some cases, some are agreeable fruits of action, some are disagreeable fruits of action. We don't have control because we already done the karma and we have to experience that. Now, these fruits of action accrue to the ignorant. Ignorant means one who thinks he is the body and mind. He is a karmi. Because he thinks he is the body and mind, he has to work, he has to act, and he becomes a karmi by acting. So, after he drops this body, these fruits of action accrue to him. Disagreeable fruits are births in lower forms of life, animal and plants. Agreeable fruits are births in celestial or superior human bodies. That could be possible too. And mixed fruits are the births in generally human bodies. Generally, human bodies are considered mixed fruit modifications, bodies coming out of mixed fruits. We experience, we have done some good things and we have done some bad things. Certain combination of this good and certain combination of this bad, they come together to give this human body. That is what the mixed fruit means. And Bhavati Atyaginam Pretya. Pretya means after death. Bhavati happens to him who? Atyaginam, one who does not renounce. One who does not renounce what? One who does not renounce actions itself, are the fruits of actions. He has to do the actions, but he can at some point renounce the actions also, but for the most part, he has to renounce the fruits of actions. That is what here is called Atyaginam. Natu sannyasinam kvachit. It never happens to a person who is renounced. A renounced person does not accrue fruits of action. Only one who has not renounced, he accrues the fruits of action. And depending on what kind of that fruit of action is, he enjoys different kinds of births, the lower births, upper births, or the human life. You stay where you are. So we started with this verse: Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha Nistragunyo Bhavarjuna Nidvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. So this is what is the impediment to attain Paramatma? This question we started in the last class. We have analyzed last class, part of last class and part of this class today as to what are the impediment. Simplifying, simply stated, gunas are the Prakriti. You can say either one. The gunas are part of the Prakriti. You can say gunas are the impediment, or you can say Prakriti is the impediment. Therefore, this the reason that Krishna said to Arjuna is, yes, you are identifying yourself with the Prakriti. Therefore, you become Nistraya Gunya. You become you deproclimate yourself. Proclivity is the guna. There is no word in English language called deproclimate, but we have used that to like activity, activate, deactivate, like that. Proclivity, proclimate, deproclimate. Deproclimate is to wash off all the gunas. So we will use that word, deproclimation of oneself. Uh, so the gunas are the impediment, and if we deproclimate ourselves, we will be able to attain to Paramatma. Now the question is how? We have identified the problem. Until now, we were trying to find out what is the problem. Now we know the problem. How do we attack the problem? That is the next part of the discussion in the Bhagavad Gita. So where do I begin? Where do I begin with respect to my effort or my disciplinary practice to move towards Paramatma? Arurukshor muner yogam karma karanam uchyate yogarudasya tasyaiva shamaha karanam uchyate. Now he is saying there are two aspects here. In our disciplinary effort, first we have to become an Arurukshu. Arurukshu is one who is interested in climbing the ladder of the gunas to move up to the level of Paramatma. And the second one is Yoga Rudha. Once you have the desire to go there, then you do certain practice and you become Yoga Rudha means you ascend to the level where it becomes much more possible. Now it is out of our reach at this point. But if I do certain effort, a disciplined effort, I will be able to be a yoga rudha. I ascend to the point from which I can go up to attain Paramatma. So it's like this. If I want to give an example, like in order to go to moon, like the way the system does, they go and they create a satellite, and they are rotating around the Earth in the satellite for a few times, and then that effort from getting here to that satellite, being in that rotation of the Earth, that is Arurukshu. Now, if I want to go to Arudha, what I have to do is I have to firmly establish there, and then from there take another rocket flight, and then go to moon. So like this, there is two steps, and those two steps we will discuss following this. So two stages are identified in that ascension to Paramatma. Arurukshu is the one who seeks to attain. He purifies the mind through performance of karma in a certain way. And performance karma in a certain way, what? Performance karma with a desire-free attitude. With that, he can come up to ascend to a level from where he, at that point, he's called an Arudha. He's seated in that yoga. He is seated in that yoga with a purified mind, engaged in meditation through renunciation of karma. So first you have to do karma according to a certain pattern, that is the desire-free attitude. And then when you get up to that point, you will give up karma and focus in bringing the mind to the Paramatma. There is a preparing the mind and then experiencing in the mind. Those are the two aspects. Again, I have given this example a couple of times, that in order to go the pole vault jump, you need the pole up to a certain point, and then after you go to the high crossbar level, you drop the pole and you cross over. So this is something like that. The getting up to the point is Arurukshu, and then once you are there, you give up the karma, and then you cross over to the other side, that is the Arudha. Here, there is another verse from Vivek Chudamani. So how to, this describes about where exactly in our body, in our mind, we have to train. What exactly we have to train, how to train. That's the what we will see here. Chitta mulo vikalpoyam chitta bhavena kaschana ataschittam samadhehi pratyak rupe paratmani. You have to understand what chitta is. Chitta is storage. In our mind, there is a faculty that receives all information and stores it. Just like in your computer, you have the hard disk. The all the information that you want to store in your computer is in the hard disk. Whenever you visit something, the computer makes a record of it, and that is stored in the chitta, in the mind. Not talking. Now, example to give, if you visit a website somewhere, that website makes note, immediately gets your IP address, and the next that IP address is stored in its computer, and that IP address is used for so many other things like that. Like that IP address being stored in the computer of the company doing business, all the data that comes to the chitta storage, that is being stored. We will see that a little later. So this duality is sourced in the chitta. Duality means the body mind thinking you are different than me. That's the duality. So when I'm in the body mind mode, body mind understanding, the duality is inevitable. This duality is sourced in the chitta, that is the storage in the mind. The mind can be divided into four parts. One is called the mind, second is called the intellect, third is the chitta, fourth is the ego. So these are different functions of the same brain that we speak of in medical terms. So this chitta is one aspect where data is stored, that's all. So this, he says the duality is seen through the chitta. I will explain that in other words, in another slide next week. I think it comes next or the after. So it is seen through the chitta. In the absence of chitta, there is no duality. Because all information is stored in the chitta, then there is scope for duality. But there is no, chitta means there is no duality. So you do a global erase of your chitta. If you do a global erase of the chitta, there is nothing in the chitta, and therefore the duality disappears. How? I'll give you an example here. See, the first, when we are young, we saw, there was a in the front yard, a cow came. I didn't know what that was. So my mother told me that's a cow. Now I have an association of a name cow and a farm cow. So that information is captured in my chitta. Next time I see another cow, I mean, it may be even when I am old. Now the mind only receives that information that I am seeing the chitta, and the mind is only a collector. It doesn't do anything. It has no intelligence in it. So the mind sends it to intellect. Hey, I'm seeing something like this. You tell me what this is. Now the intellect again needs material for making a decision. Intellect is a processor. It can compare two things and then make a judgment. Without data, the intellect cannot do anything. So the intellect sends it to chitta. I am seeing something here which has four legs. It has some spots on the body. It has horns or some description. What is this? Now the chitta goes to its storage bank and it looks at all the information, and it may return two or three items. It may return a cow, it may return a dog, it may return a goat or something like that. But there is other information that that is sent, and the intellect has to make a decision, and will make a decision that it is a cow and communicates it back to cow, to the mind. Now, the mind now is telling to the ego, that is a cow, and the ego says, I am seeing a cow. See, I should not be seeing a cow at all. I should be seeing the Atma, but I am seeing a cow. That is the duality, and that is the association with the body and mind. That is what is called the ego. The ego should not be there if I am Atma. If I have realized the Atma, there is nothing to report, because I said here, in the absence of Chitta, the entire Chitta has been reprogrammed. When I get to realization, it has lost per se the the data relating to the cow. Let us say, only functionally I'm telling, physically it will be there. It doesn't affect that, but there is an overlayer of the Atma there, and that's what projects first. So therefore, the large the Chitta in the innermost Supreme Atma. If I large the Chitta in this in Supreme Atma, for anything, only Atma is what Chitta is able to send back to the intellect. And therefore, that what is calling Chitta Mulo Vikalpoyam, Chitta Bhavena Kaschana. Vikalpa means duality. Vikalpa is the source in the Chitta, but if the Chitta itself is cleaned up, there is no duality. So in the absence of Chitta and deep sleep, this we experience. In the absence of deep sleep, of Chitta in the deep sleep, though there is no duality, yet ignorance is in nascent form. You see, the if I get up in the morning and if I see duality, that means that the ignorance was there in the nascent form in deep sleep. But if in the morning when I get up, if I don't see duality, that means the ignorance is gone, is not there. It was not there even in deep sleep. So merge the Chitta in your own self. See, who is in the deep sleep? Chitta is in nascent form and the witness is there. But if the ignorance is not in nascent form there, then the Chitta is really the Paramatma, and it is a reflection of the Paramatma, your own self. So along with the removal of ignorance, all duality will retire at that point. One more. So this is what I was talking about. See, something, he sees something, and that information is funneled. The mind picks up and funneled to the intellect. The intellect, again, it cannot by itself determine what it is. So it queries the storage and says, hey, tell me something about this. These are the data I have received. Now this Chitta looks into it and then returns an answer. It is possibly a dog or something like that. And then that communicates, the intellect communicates to ego, hey, this is a dog, and you claim that you saw a dog. That's the ego. So all Chitta retains, what the Chitta does is this. As the mind sends the information, though it has the information about the dog before, it overwrites another information on it. So the Chitta retains the received information, it imprints in it. That is what is called the imprint. Whatever activity we do, whatever objects we see, whatever music we hear, everything is recorded in the Chitta as an imprint. And it is this imprint which makes us recognize things, and the speed with which the Chitta returns information, when the intellect queries, the Chitta returns the information, the speed with which it returns information, and the accuracy with which it can return the information. That is what determines our what we call the intellect. Oh, he's very intelligent. When you say he or she is very intelligent, that intelligence refers to something like this. I'm talking in very gross terms. The storage is able to get the accurate information, retrieve the information required to make a decision on it, and return it to the intellect, and the intellect acts on it correctly. So that becomes the intelligence. So this chitta is one that plays a very major role. That's what here Shankaracharya he said, chitta mulo vikalpoyam chitta bhavena kaschana ataschittam samadhi pratyagrupe paratmani. So chitta, if the chitta is on one, it sits right in the middle. It can be going on the ignorant side, or it can go on the knowledge side. It all depends on what is the content of the chitta. And so this chitta is what we have to manage in terms of when we say cleaning the mind, purifying the mind means it is this chitta that we have to manage. And what it is always pump new information, which are sattvic information into the chitta. All our information activities we do, if they are sattvic centric, then the data in the chitta will be the more recent layers would be sattva, and the chitta has a very interesting behavior. Yeah, it's like the last in first out model, if you will. In inventory they have a first in first out, first in last out, last in first out, like this. This last in first out means whatever is the most recent information that it can very easily retrieve. Something that is very old, it takes a little while to retrieve. Like, if I ask you what did you eat for lunch yesterday, we will all say what we ate for lunch yesterday. But if you ask me what I ate for lunch 1 year ago today, I totally ate black. So that more recent information in the chitta will be helpful in our case, and that is where the practice we do from today helps. If the chitta that we have carried so long in so many millions of years still would be powerful, what all we do is not going to help us that much more. So that is where the management of the chitta becomes very important. So now we have to address what is the purification of mind. We will take this up in the next class, and we'll see if there are any questions that need to be looked at. Chat box is empty. All right, if anybody has any questions, we can try to answer. Namaskara, Swamiji.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ. ನೀವು ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ
Better.
ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಹೇಗಿದೆ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ?
ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು.
Swamiji, you have to unmute. Okay, anybody have any questions?
ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ.